This is KSL Sunday Edition with Boyd Matheson.
Welcome to Sunday Edition. I am Boyd Matheson. Each Sunday we attempt to divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense. We have conversations with great thinkers, great leaders, and great people making a difference. We talk politics so we can discuss society, and we explore society so we can discuss principles and the people who actually live them. We bring the best and brightest to Utah, and we send the Utah model to our nation's capital and beyond. You know, we often talk about the need to engage, especially young professionals, in the public square and train them in the strategies and tactics and skills so they can confidently lean into good public policy, good governance, and even into the political arena. In the United States and in many countries around the world, young professionals have disengaged, both because of the negativity and polarization, but also the lack of confidence they may have in their own ability to make a difference. Well, this past week, I traveled to Lima, Peru to speak at Roble Foundation seminar that is designed to gather young professionals of faith, particularly members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from countries all over South America for 4 days of training, conversations, and experiences in using principles of faith to make a difference in their local communities. Leading the seminar is the president of Roble Foundation, Romanna Remor. Romanna is a businesswoman, a teacher and consultant on strategic management, family agriculture, microcredit, and urban planning. A native of Brazil, Romanna has worked at her country's embassy in Washington, D.C., focusing on trade and commerce, and served as Secretary of Social Welfare. In 2011, Romanna became the first Latter-day Saint congresswoman in Brazil. She's a member of the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation and holds a Master of Public Administration from Brigham Young University. And as you all know, I actually believe people should be introduced more by their principles than their resume. Romanna is a woman of faith and an extraordinary, authentic leader. She has an entrepreneur's vision, a coach's inspiration, and creates space for people to discover the power and potential that they possess. And I got to watch this in action in Peru this past week. Romanna, welcome to Sunday Edition.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So for our viewers today, tell us a little bit about the conference that just took place in Lima and what you're trying to do with these young professionals from all walks of life.
So this is our annual flagship event. It's the culmination of activities and gatherings and projects that we carry throughout the year. But when we meet at this annual event, and for that meeting, we select from above more than 300-400 LDS young professionals from all over South America. We wish we could have all of them, but we need a limit. So when we meet, we are able to deepen and broaden their vision and our vision about politics, about society, about principles and concepts such as sustainability and our stewardship and with the planet, and how they can improve their skills and improve their network in order to serve and impact their societies through the values of the restoration.
Yeah.
So that's our objective. And then throughout 3 or 4 days, we have amazing people speaking to them, listening to them, interacting, people such as you. And the result is always amazing because of what they are and because of what they bring.
Yeah, I was so inspired by how hungry they were to learn.
Yes.
And you had people who were lawyers and healthcare workers and people who worked in government and in community and small business owners. And they were also focused on how can we take these principles and apply them in our local community. And you talked about some of the things that we talked about at the conference in terms of sustainability and climate and how you apply principles there. Even things like genocide, great speakers are talking about how we prevent that. What are some of the things that you hope these students take back with them as they go back into community in their countries in South America?
And we hope, and fortunately, we have seen them taking back some new ideas and more motivation to put into action what they have heard and exchanged. So what comes out of it are projects that are initiated by them or interactions or projects that they support. For example, may I give a quick
please.
example? In one of our seminarios, and we had this public servant that worked in a government sphere, but he thought that he had a desire that was not yet put into practice and that hadn't yet come out, to serve in different ways. So after the seminario, he went to the seminario praying and saying, Lord, please let me know what I should be doing that I'm not yet to serve you and to serve society. So he had this inspiration to write children's books and on people to tell stories of children but character children and with disabilities. And so he published his first collection maybe a year after the first seminario. And the books were so well written, the stories were so enchanting and so full of love. And the drawings, the children loved it. Yeah. And he was invited to speak on TV channels, radio stations, and he was interviewed by newspapers and even the local and federal government after a while asked him to participate in conversations, and his books were then used by some public schools.
Oh, I love that. That's so powerful. We're going to stay with the conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with Romanna Remor. We'll talk about some of the other things that took place in the conference, including a message from Elder David A. Bednar of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We'll look at human dignity. We'll look at the power of what one person can do to make a difference in society when we come back to Sunday Edition on KSL 5 TV. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. We're staying with the question and the conversation with Romanna Remor from the Roble Del Sur Foundation and its unique vision to engage and empower young Latter-day Saint professionals as servant leaders through providing skills, resources, and connecting them with strategic allies in order for them to promote a positive impact in their communities throughout South America. And Romanna, part of the extraordinary event there in Lima this past week was having Elder David A. Bednar of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ speaking to these young people, not just as Latter-day Saints, but as people who can go out and make a difference in their community. Give us your perspective.
And having an apostle and so close to them and gives such a strength to their deep desires to go forth and serve and make a difference. Per se, if he had only went there and had spent like a minute with them and seen them, would already, I'm sure, had a very powerful effect. But his words were the response to some of their hunger for inspiration and knowledge, and we heard that and after when we talked to some of them. And for some, they knew what they should do, which projects and which areas they should be engaged. Some were thinking about getting involved in coming elections. They felt that they got impressions. But in general, what Elder Bednar inspired all was that in whatever I will be doing, and if we use the Savior's way, the Savior's math, as he says, that is touching and serving people one by one, or doing the most important things in life that we should be doing, be that planting trees, serving communities, or looking people in the eye, serving in whatever condition, working in projects that will impact society. But he said one by one. And that gives us the sense that we have that power to do things one by one. We don't need to save the world, all the problems, you know.
Yeah, and I thought that was so powerful because whether you're running for president of a country or you're helping a neighbor in need or you're planting a tree, everybody can do something. We don't have to do everything, but we can all do something and have that difference. It makes such a big impact. You've had a unique experience being a member of Congress in Brazil. You've seen government interaction. You've seen how faith in the public square sometimes kind of gets pushed to the side. But you've also seen how people of faith and interfaith can come together to really make a difference. Why is that so important, especially in South America?
Well, we have the same problems, I think, all over the world. But in South America, we have countries that are struggling to develop, to overcome some historical challenges. And so in politics, we see the contrasts and conflicts, and these challenges gain a higher, bigger, and stronger dimension for good and for bad. So this interaction between good people that are there with the most genuine desire to serve is, you know, what makes the miracles happen and what keeps still politics sacred. And, you know, with the sense that it's a way in this world and to serve society, and so I think this interaction with good people in the world still has good people and people of faith, allows good ideas to go forth, to be approved, and to be sustained by a group with much more strength.
Oh, I love that, and I love that idea of having our politics be a little more sacred place and space where we can respect that humanity, that we can have dignity across our differences. And ultimately, I think that leads us to the divinity that we all share together as we always say, fellow travelers here on planet Earth. Just in our last minute, give us one thing that you hope to see in the future, especially for these young professionals in South America.
We hope that someday in the future we'll have in our annual flagship events, we'll have more leaders in government, we'll have more entrepreneurs, we'll have more teachers, we'll have more community leaders among them. Maybe we'll have a president or a man or a woman among us. And why not? I believe they have the potential to do so. They have the willingness to serve. And they have the power of God, so why not? Yeah,
oh, I love that. I told the group at the very end I wanted to take them all home with me and take them to Washington, D.C. and put them on the floor of the House and the Senate. They were so inspiring that they just wanted to make a difference based on principles. And that is an extraordinary thing. It's an extraordinary organization, Roble Del Sur Foundation, and Romanna Remor, we so appreciate you coming here to Utah and coming on Sunday Edition with us today.
Thank you so much for being with us there. You really inspired us. I still have your words in my mind, and thank you for having me here.
Oh, wonderful. Romanna Remor, so grateful to have you today. We're going to go ahead and step aside for a quick break. When we come back, young people are going back to school, and they have a lot of challenges. How do we make sure that the health and mental health of our young people is strong to give them the confidence they need to meet the challenges of the day? We'll talk to my friend Jenny Howe coming up next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sunday Edition. Young people across the state and across the country have headed back to school and to the classroom. And with that return and accompanying changes and challenges, many young students are feeling high levels of angst and anxiety, combined with the challenges of navigating social media, sometimes helicopter parents, and often the high and unrealistic expectations of social media. Far too many youth are spiraling into discouragement, depression, suicide ideation, and a host of other limiting and stifling and even dangerous challenges. So the trusted voice I turn to address these issues is Jenny Howe, a consultant and counselor who understands the nuances and complexities of young people today and the practical, tactical strategies to change the direction of struggling young people and providing hope for better days to come. She possesses both radical curiosity and radical compassion, with an intuition that comes from not just having young people come into her world and through her doors, but her willingness and ability to travel into theirs. Jenny, welcome to Sunday Edition.
Thank you. I feel so smiley after that intro. I appreciate it.
Well, you're seeing it, I'm sure you're seeing it in your practice, back to school, back to the drill, new season.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? What are you sensing?
You know, I think that getting back to school, that transitional time, is always such a difficult time for families. And after a long summer of no schedules and having to wake up early, kids that are really predisposed to anxiety-related disorders, they struggle with this change. And it's, you know, we hear often about like trying to just make sure that they're getting up at the same time and going to bed at the same time. And those things are great. Schedule, structure, great. But I think I'm seeing a lot of parents really worry a lot about how their kids are functioning at school and overstepping, calling counselors, calling teachers, and interfering with their child's ability to be able to just kind of learn how to manage themselves.
Yeah, that learning how to manage, I think, is such an important part of it. Of course, one of the things that has been a big debate is the use of technology in the classroom, particularly kids having their cell phones there. Should they be completely banned? Should they have partial access? As you see it, how do we help the kids really learn to understand how to manage and moderate their use of technology?
I'm so glad you said the word moderate. That's key here, right? The answer in the solution isn't a complete ban on electronic devices everywhere. We use them in the classroom, we use them to learn, we use them to teach. There's some wonderful things. Phones really don't have a place inside a learning environment. However, there are going to be phones at schools. So practicing moderation is a sport of doing it ourselves and having our kids watch us do it ourselves. It's really about allowing our kids to see that, hey, we also like our phones. We also like to scroll. We also have this tendency of picking it up, and we can say out loud, I've been on my phone too much. I'm gonna set it over here, or I'm going to put this in the other room because I don't want to be tempted to use my phone. So as parents, I think it's really about teaching our kids through our actions how to moderate our phone use.
I love that, because I think that the ban is like good intention, but wrong execution. I always used to use the phrase, a man is not honest just because he hasn't had a chance to lie. Our kids don't know how to use technology just because we've taken it away. We have to teach them how to moderate it and how to recognize the positives and how to avoid some of those negatives.
Getting on the floor with our kids and going through Instagram with them and showing them and having conversations about the things that are harmful versus the things that are helpful. Using the tool that we have in front of us to moderate and teach, I think, is a wonderful thing to be able to do. But just pretending that we're not going to see it and by like banning it completely is never going to work.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get to the principles as opposed to, so often we focus on the behavior of all of this, and the behavior is easy to control if you just take it away, you ban it. But you've got to learn the principles of not just moderation, but what is it that takes you into the right places? And let's talk about that. As our young people, especially young women, see so many different things that are so out of whack in terms of expectations and reality. How do we help them learn the principles that will help them guide their behavior on social media?
Well, I love using social media as a tool, again, to be able to generalize this idea of principles for all things. So we can use social media as a way to say, hey, girls, why don't we go through and you tell me what you're thinking. As you see this post, tell me what comes up for you. Tell me more about what you feel in your body as you see this. And so rather than just limiting and saying, hey, I don't want you on your phone, when we can say, hey, talk to me about how you feel, woman to woman, you know, parent to child in this circumstance, it creates a conversation where people can then learn values. Because we don't learn values by just being told what to do. We learn values by kind of experimenting. I always tell the teenagers that I work with that the best part of being a teenager is you get to fail a lot, and that's how you learn who you really are. That's how you learn where your character is, and that's how you learn how to make choices. So teaching our kids that process by really getting in there with them and having those conversations, using the phone as a tool, not necessarily this bad thing, could be really helpful.
Yeah. Just in our last couple of minutes, I want to talk a little bit about some of the isolation, some of those feelings of loneliness and angst that a lot of teenagers are experiencing. We've really seen it even post-pandemic. That ability to connect seems to be a challenge. Give us just a quick thought on that in terms of how do we talk about that differently?
I love the idea of action. I'm an exposure therapist. So when we are feeling lonely and isolated, sometimes we just want to kind of continue to crawl into that hole and feel safe, right? And so it requires feeling a little unsafe to get out of that hole. So helping our kids find connections outside of social media, outside of the internet. That might be enrolling them in a pottery class in the neighborhood. It might mean having them get more involved in community activities or church-related activities, but helping them create choices for themselves where they build connections outside of that isolation can be so helpful. It requires action. Action predicates emotional change, always. And so whether we're feeling depressed or anxious or, concerned about the transition with school, we have to take action in order to help ourselves feel better.
Oh, so important. And just in our last 30 seconds, just give us one thing that you wish parents or guardians or grandparents were doing differently as they interact with their young people.
I said it this week, let it be. Let your kids figure out what they're capable of. And the only way they will figure out what they're capable of is if you let them. So let them understand that they have this capacity to feel all of these feelings and that they can resolve them, they can handle them, and they can tolerate them. Step back a little bit, let them figure it out. They're great kids.
Yeah, oh, that's so powerful. Jenny Howe, JennyHoweConsulting.com is where you can go to check out so many great resources.
Thank you.
Jenny, you're always the person that we turn to help us navigate the pretty choppy waters that many of our young people are experiencing today. And I think everything you talked about today applies to the parents and the grandparents
More
as much as the children. So thanks for helping all of us find some moderation and some good solid principles today. Jenny, always a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps it up for us today on Sunday Edition. It's been wonderful to be with you today, as it always is. And remember, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference. Music and the spoken word is next.